There is some blockbuster new reporting today in the New York Times about Donald Trump's efforts to gut the rule of law in America completely and replace it with a system of political prosecutions and prosecutorial leniency for his partisan allies. There's evidence in this story that they may have broken the Department of Justice. The New York Times reveals that given the choice between serving Donald Trump's petty, vindictive, conspiratorial interests and maintaining their own integrity, the country's top lawyers, both inside DOJ and those considering a career in federal service, are choosing their integrity. From that report, quote, the intermingling of law enforcement and political goals has made the department long a magnet for platinum legal talent, an unappealing landing spot. According to current and former officials who spoke anonymously, the number of applications is down significantly from previous years. Some of those applying are generally not as qualified as those who sought the positions in recent past. Several federal prosecutors' offices around the country have suffered debilitating losses from firings and resignations, many stemming from efforts by senior department leaders to push career prosecutors into doing Trump's bidding. The New York Times reports that U.S. attorneys' offices lost a whopping 14% of their headcount in 2025, a one-year drop unlike any in recent memory. The Times adds that those that are joining the Justice Department are effectively taking a loyalty test. More from the Times report, quote, how would you help advance the president's executive orders and policy priorities in this role? Read one of the queries on an application for a job in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. In fact, Team Trump has made it explicit. Work in the Justice Department and you work for Donald Trump. One former aide to Attorney General Pam Bondi tweeted this, quote, if you are a lawyer and interested in being an AUSA and support President Trump and anti-crime agenda, DM me. That's real, not The Onion. I want to bring in New York Times Justice Department reporter Glenn Thrush. His byline is on that reporting we read from. Also joining us, former Department of Justice pardon attorney Liz Oyer is here. She was fired by Donald Trump's Justice Department last March after refusing to reinstate gun rights for actor Mel Gibson. Glenn, this is a pick your jaw up off the table piece of reporting. Take us through it.
Well, I think, and you know, Liz being here is pretty emblematic of what has happened in this administration with the Justice Department. I think when you look at that number, 14% reduction year to date in U.S. Attorney's offices, I think it's important for viewers to understand. U.S. Attorney's offices are the front line in the law and order agenda that Donald Trump ran and was elected on, okay? And 14% may not seem like the end of the world, but it really is. First of all, it's targeting a lot of the highest profile offices around the country, New York, Washington, D.C., now Minneapolis, Los Angeles, because these are the places that Trump has targeted for what I describe as this tornado of intrusion by Main Justice. And it's not only in bringing cases against his political enemies, it's about blocking cases against political adversaries. This all started at the beginning of the administration with a strong-armed attempt to drop charges against Eric Adams in New York City. So what has happened is you have a perfect storm of problems. A lot of people in Main Justice, a lot of career officials got out of Dodge before Trump was even sworn in, or shortly thereafter. They took the fork in the road because they didn't want to be called upon to do things they didn't like. And when you add to that 14%, that it's the cream of the crop, people like Liz, who are at the top of their game, who have risen in the department, leave because typically they have more options on the outside. So the bottom line is you start seeing these desperate reach outs, including from Rosen, who's the U.S. attorney in Minneapolis, begging Main Justice to send bodies because they're not able to do basic cases, both in civil and in their criminal divisions. It has been described to us as a complete disaster.
Liz, I imagine you read a lot of this with a mix of sadness with this department. I mean, in my experience in government, it is, as Glenn writes, the best of the best that chooses these career paths, that chooses to protect their country. So all this national security work that we didn't even talk about yet. But there's also this intentional destruction of the department that is now undeniable on the part of Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's really just shocking to see the extent to which the Department of Justice has been diminished. It's not just the attrition, the loss of people, but it's also the loss of the basic competence and credibility of the institution. The people who are going out the door are experienced attorneys who know how to handle complex cases. This administration is claiming that it wants to pursue these complex cases involving massive frauds, for example, that are being prosecuted in Minnesota, but they're losing the experienced people who know how to do these cases. And even if they could be readily replaced, their replacements would be people who need a great deal of training and experience before they can get up to speed on how to do prosecutions of this level of complexity. There's also the issue of the blow to the institutional credibility of the Department of Justice in the eyes of the outside world, including courts. We've seen it documented now that there are hundreds of examples in which courts have found that representations made by Justice Department attorneys are not credible or believable. That is really just a shocking change from the reverence that the Department of Justice historically has been given by courts. Their word is essentially gold, unimpeachable. And now their credibility is in the toilet. The experts who manage the most important, most vital cases to our national security and public safety are leaving in droves, and that leaves the American people in, frankly, a very dangerous and alarming situation.